Excuse me, pardon me. Hey, man, watch them people's shoes. Hey, man, don't drop that popcorn on them. All right, here go 2-6 right here. Cool. Hey, man, yo, this gonna be a good one, man. Hey, you at the movies with Pete McCorvey. Hey, oh, shh, about to start. Hold on, be quiet. Hey, what's good, everybody? It's your country cousin, Pete McCorvey, a.k.a. Peter Mac. And we here once again, chilling in the theater, man. How y'all been since the last couple of weeks, man? Hope everything been good. I hope y'all brackets didn't get busted like mine. Because mine is all the way busted. But I will say this. This year, I can understand the champion this year a hell of a lot better than I could last year. Because like I said, last year when the Florida Gators won it, I told people if you would have told me at the top of the basketball season that the Florida Gators would be hosting the D1 men's basketball title high as the champs, I never would have imagined it. But this year, the Michigan Wolverines were the king of the dance. First time since 1989 when Glenn Rice and company did it, which y'all listened to Porch Talk last week. I revealed that Glenn Rice and Sarah Palin supposedly got it on back then, but you know, that's another time for another day. They got vengeance of this iteration of the Michigan Wolverines got vengeance for me, for my Duke Blue Devils, because they defeated UConn, the team who put my Blue Devils out, 69-63. And I loved it because during the semifinals, when Michigan played Arizona, they had the Fab Five doing their broadcast, and it was so good to see all five of them together. It's like they hadn't missed a beat, man. On the women's side, UCLA, they've won the women's title. They beat the South Carolina Lady Gamecocks 79-51. And this is UCLA's first title in the NCAA era. Now, before, I think like 1983, the women had their own thing. It was the conference, well, not the conference, the whole organization for them was the Association of Intercollegiate Athletics for Women, or AIAW. And the last time the UCLA Lady Bruins won was 1978. It's so great they defeated Don Staley, South Carolina Gamecocks. Like I said before, 79-51. I'm going to say this like I said on Porch Talk. Auntie Staley, you got to get some size around that basket, because this is 2 years in a row that you have gotten dog-walked in the title. That's showing to me that when Camila Cardoza graduated, you gave up a lot. So you definitely need to do something by recruiting some size under that basket. But speaking of recruitment, that's going to bleed into the movie that I'm going to be reviewing tonight. That movie is one of my personal favorite movies, and that is Blue Chips. Blue Chips is a 1994 sports drama released by Paramount. It stars Nick Nolte and Shaquille O'Neal. Now, if y'all remember that cover they had it, that cover was so damn gangster. It also features Mary McDonald, Ed O'Neill, Al Bundy, J.T. Walsh, Alfred Woodard, Lou Gossett Jr., Marcus Johnson, NBA player Marcus Johnson, NBA player Penny Hardaway, NBA legend Larry Bird, and NBA legend Bob Cousy. Now, I'm going to tell y'all my first time I saw this movie. The first time I saw this movie, it was during its initial theater release in 1994 at a theater in New Orleans, Louisiana. I don't know exactly where it was. I was living in New Orleans at the time. My mom was getting her master's in Tulane. I was between ages 3 and 5. And this was when Shaq Mania was running wild. Shaq was everywhere. He had a deal with Pepsi, had a deal with Burger King. He had his shoe out with Reebok. Y'all remember them? I forgot, they just had the hypnotist thing. I forgot what they was called. So if there's any sneakerheads out there, y'all tell me what it was called. He had them with Reebok. He had a rap album out, and I think Shaq Fu, if it hadn't been released, it was on its way to being released. So Shaq was everywhere. And you know, kids, we all love Shaq. He was the big thing. So with it being Shaq Mania, and me loving basketball, y'all know that's my favorite sport, even though I can't play it worth a damn, I begged my mama to take me to the theater. And this is one of them rare cases where my mom took me and my sister to the movie. Like I told y'all before, going to the movie was me, my sister, and my dad's thing. So my mom takes me to the theater, and I'll never forget it. So we ended up going into the wrong theater. The movie theater that we went in was screening what I later saw and found out was the crime drama starring Wesley Snipes, Sugar Hill. And it spooked the hell out of me because we walked in. It's at the beginning, too. It was on the scene where the mother, played by Candy Alexander, was ODing. And I'm spooked. First of all, it's in black and white. I'm like, this movie in black and white, what the hell going on? And then I'm starting to see her OD. And I'll never forget, I kind of looked at my mom. My mama, I was like, Mommy, I don't think this is Blue Chips. So she just sat there. And I don't know why it didn't hit her this way. And I'm spooked. I don't know what ODing look like. And I just know these kids are crying for their mama. And she's shaking and doing all that. So I'm scared. So finally, after that scene goes off, you've seen the movie, the screen go black. My mama looks at a lady in front of us and says, is this Blue Chips? Now, y'all got to remember, we're in the theater in New Orleans, and it's obviously in the hood, because the lady was black and the whole audience was black. She's like, is this Blue Chips? The lady kind of looked at my mama, gave her a hard look, and I recognized what they look at. You know people from New Orleans, they like to throw the word bitch around. Like, where you going, little bitch? Hey, what you doing, bitch? So the look she shot my mama was pretty much like, bitch, does this look like Blue Chips? She didn't say it, but her face gave it out. She looked, but then she looked over at me and my sister and saw that she was with her kids and just looked back at my mama, shook her head and said no. And just went back to watching the theater. So then we got up and went to the right theater. I'll never forget that. I was just like, while I was happy to go see Blue Chips, that movie traumatized me for months. Oh, my God, I'll never forget that. But Blue Chips was released Friday, February 18, 1994. It opened at number 3 that weekend at the box office, but surprisingly, only made $26 million against its $35 million budget, meaning it was a flop, which is crazy because if you talk to anybody who is a sports fan aficionado, you know, for y'all slow people, that mean they love this. It's considered a classic. So I don't understand why, but I think I'm going to get to it later on why I think what happened. So Blue Chips tells the story of Pete Bell, played by Nick Nolte, and he's the scrupulous coach of the Western University Dolphins in Los Angeles, California. While his program was once a college basketball bluebird, he is now suffering his first losing season. He realizing that the recruiting game has passed him by, Coach Bell seeks to recruit 2 of the top high school players in the nation, blue chip players. One of them is Butch McCrae from Chicago, Illinois, played by Anthony Penny Hardaway. And the other is Ricky Rowe from Indiana, played by former Indiana Hoosier Matt Norber. However, he also is thrown a big alley-oop, pun intended, by one of his contacts when he is exposed to a 7-foot phenom who happens to be an Army vet from New Orleans named Neon Badeau. That's Shaq. While trying to get them to sign with Western, Pete discovers the seedy world of college athletics that is fueled by pay for play or a quid pro quo thing, this for that. I do this, you give me this. He also faces pressure on both sides from a booster, Happy Kuykendall, played by J.T. Walsh, telling him to play ball and give these kids what they want. And from sports reporter Ed Axe, played by Ed O'Neill, a.k.a. Al Bundy, who is determined to uncover recruitment violations to Western's program due to evidence he has over an alleged point-shaving incident that occurred a few years prior. All of this causes internal turmoil within Pete, and he's got himself asking this question: should he continue to run a clean program, or should he do what he needs to do in order to win and get back on top of the college basketball world? Now, I'm going to say this. I am very shocked that this movie did bad financially, because it touched on everything that's wrong with college athletics. But I think it's like what one critic said. They said it's pretty much doubling down on what the program was. And now if you look at it like that, I can get that. It's like, okay, people probably went to the thing like, oh, this is a basketball movie. College. Oh, shit, this is a basketball version of the program. Okay, bro, we get it. We know there's corruption in college sports. We just saw it a year ago. We don't want to see a basketball version. I'm pretty sure if we know that it goes on in college football, if a school is a basketball powerhouse, it's going on there. So I get it. So that's probably why word of mouth people was like, shit went word of mouth. Wasn't social media, nothing. So people were like, hey, man, you see that movie Blue Chips? What you think? Man, bro, if you saw the program last year, just substitute football for basketball, same fucking movie. Which it really ain't, but that's another time for another day. Now, I thought the acting was phenomenal. Nick Nolte, in my opinion, he should have been nominated for an Academy Award for Best Actor. I don't think he should have won it, but he definitely should have been nominated for it. Because honestly, God, this is my introduction to Nick Nolte. I had seen him at my cousin's house in Another 48 Hours, but you're a little boy, you're not paying attention. But this is when I realized who he was, because he did a superb job as a college basketball. Because he's very believable. Remember, I said last review I did on the Sixth Man how David Payman, who played Coach Peterson, I said he wasn't believable. Nick Nolte was 100% believable, and I'm gonna get to that later on in the review why he was believable. J.T. Walsh did a phenomenal job as Happy Kuykendall, too. He was very believable as one of those rich, obnoxious slobs that Pete Bell called Happy and the other booths or friends of the program, as they kept saying, because they didn't want to say booth, they said friends of the program. He was very believable in that role as somebody who is slick and slimy, who has no problem spreading his money around to get what he wants and letting you know that he's doing it. Alfred Woodard, who played Levada McCray, Butch McCray's mom, she didn't have that much screen time, but I will tell you this, in the time she had, she did her thing. To be honest with you, I'm going to say she reminded me of my mama. You know what I'm saying? Because she was not, even though they lived in, looked like the projects when you watch the movie, she was your stereotypical ghetto mama. She let it be known as soon as Pete Bell came in with his bullshit that I ain't the one, the two, or the three. Because now he did something that ended up becoming a running gag. So Butch went to a Catholic high school. He went to St. Joseph High School, which I get into that later on, how that was inaccurate. And obviously you hear the name St. Joseph, it's Catholic. So he told her, said, your kids are well-mannered. That's a good Catholic upbringing. He said, I'm Catholic myself. She looked him dead in the face and said, I'm not. She said, I just sent him over there because I know that priests and nuns don't take no shit. Then when he tries to say that one of the deans of a college loves basketball, she's like, you implying that these class is rigged for athletes to pass. And then she tells him her demands about her, wanting a new house, a new job. And then he said, well, there's rules and regulations. She said, look, I don't know a lot about basketball, but I know a foul's not a foul unless the referee blows his whistle. She's like, look, it ain't cheating unless you get caught. Then Pete tries to volley back and said, now you teaching Butch all of this, bend the rules. And I said, what's he going to become when he's leading people and all that? She looked him dead in the face and acts like trying to be quick, say, a millionaire, which ain't a lie. Ain't a lie at all. So I love how they showed, look, I'm a black woman and I'm from the hood, but I know what time it is. Don't come in here playing with me. Also showed that athletes are not as dumb as you think. Like Neon, he's being tutored by Pete's estranged wife, Jenny, played by Mary McDonald, to help him pass the ACT because he did very pitiful on the ACT. They're trying to, Pete tells him about Prop 48, like, look, you can get in if your grades up point, you just got to pass the ACT and all this and the third. So while she's tutoring him, she realized he's more intelligent than what he lets on. He's like, look, I know how the world works. I know how society is. I know about social structure and all that. I'm just playing this game to let y'all think I'm like this so I can see what y'all about really deep down. Neon knows everything is on BS. Also, this movie touched on race. It touched on race. Ricky's story in particular, when Pete goes to visit him at his farm in Indiana, it's kind of hinted that there's some bigotry going on with his family and all that. And he's courted there. I didn't say that. Pete ended up getting the upper hand because he called in favor of Larry Bird. Larry Bird hooked him up with that. So Ricky's father said, I would like my son to be around the church going type. And then, like I said, remember that running gag? He said, Pete says, well, sir, if it's anything, I was a Baptist. Ricky's father says, First Baptist, Southern Baptist. And Pete look around like, oh, shit. He's like, well, First Baptist, of course. And his father gives him a look of approval. And then he said, we don't take to Southern Baptist around if you catch my drift. Now, even as a kid, I didn't catch it like when I first watched. I was 4 or 5 years old. I'm trying to watch basketball. But when I got to be like 9 or 10 and I rented from Blockbuster, I caught that like, okay, he talking about black people. And also, when Ricky goes on his visit to Western, when he's telling them he's thinking about coming to school there, he said there's some business we need to discuss. He said, look, a white blue chip athlete like myself deserves something extra. So basically, it was like he thought, look, I'm in this sport. It's dominated by black guys. I'm a white guy. I deserve something extra because I'm excelling in something that didn't. It almost gave white privilege to me. And the number one thing about this, it pointed out the hypocrisy of college basketball. And Happy broke it down perfectly in the scene after he's introduced and Pete Bell is walking away and he's telling him, look, I know who you're recruiting. I know what their parents ask for. I know what everything. I get you everything you want. It's going to be clean. It's going to be untraceable. And then people was like, man, get your ass out of here. And then Happy told him, he broke it down. He said, you make millions of dollars and the school makes millions of dollars off these kids. And what do they get in return? Nothing. He said, we owe them this. He said, you owe these kids this money. And I'm going to also say this in my review of the movie. Like I said about the 6 Man last review, these people know ball. They know ball. Got coaches in there. The first team they played was coached by Rick Pitino. Second team they showed them playing, coached by George Raveling. This is back-to-back with George Raveling, man. I just realized, because like I said, he was in the 6 Man too. And the last team they played, of course, was coached by Bob Knight, and it was the actual Indiana Hoosiers. And then, of course, you had my boy Dick Vitale, Dickie V, making an appearance at the end as a commentator. And the gameplay looked authentic. And I'm going to get into that later in the trivia part, why the gameplay looked authentic. So for that reason, I'm going to give Blue Chips a 9 out of 10. And I'm going to tell you why I gave it a 9 out of 10, because before I went back and watched this, like I said, my friend Sonny said, bro, you got to watch these movies, unbiased. Don't watch them as a fan. Watch them and break them down. I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. I'm going to tell you why I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. Get to it, but this is not the first reason that I'm going to give you why it's a 9 out of 10. I'm going to get to that. First of all, these are my takeaways. My what the fuck are just things I realized. Growing up now, Happy was not the villain. Happy was a good guy. Pete Bell ass was the villain. Thinking, I'm running a clean program. We don't do this. We win clean. We're not dirty and all that. Yeah, it's easy for you to say that walking away with $1 million and then 6 figures, and these kids basically got to ask people to borrow money, put gas in their car and to go to Burger King, $5 to go to Burger King. Because back in 1994, $5 at Burger King was worth a lot. It ain't worth shit. Now, you can't get, with $5 now, you can't get nothing at Burger King but the fuck out them people's store. And I know it's a lot of people. It's going to be some kids now, because I think I had to explain this movie I was watching to when I was in the Navy, and there was a young dude. He didn't understand because the NIL was going on. And I said, bro, NIL's not always been a thing. Even if I have kids, and when kids come up and they watch this movie, I'm going to have to explain to them, there wasn't always these kids got money to play sports. They used to have to go do this shit for free and be struggling. So this movie is definitely a reason why NIL is needed. The only bad, somebody can say it's bad, somebody can say it's good. The only good thing I love about this movie is I know for a fact they are not going to remake this shit. Because there's no way you can remake Blue Chips in the name of NIL. And the most obvious thing about this movie, Western University Dolphins, that's clearly the UCLA Bruins. You can look at that and tell it's the UCLA Bruins. The way they, like the uniform, hell, same uniforms, colors and all. The court, they got it to look like the one at Pauley Pavilion, UCLA's home arena. The school was in LA. So, come on, if that ain't a dead ringer for UCLA, I do not know what is. One of the things that pissed me off getting older and watching this movie, Ricky was dumb as hell. Ricky was super dumb. First, it was when he went in there and asked for the $30,000. He did that on an official visit. Room full of coaching staff. Said, 30 grand, I like to have it in cash. I've seen a lot already. I know how this works. So if you can match, I've talked to people, seen things. If you can match their offer, I'm yours. This motherfucker thinking he is in the NBA negotiating this contract. Not realizing what you're doing is against every NCAA regulation. You can make yourself ineligible. That's why, I looked when Pete got mad and told her, get the hell out of here, Ricky. It ain't just even the fact like, I can't believe you being dirty. It's like, you that fucking, get your stupid ass out of my office. Because that was just straight up dumb. And then they asked for it in cash. I'm like, this fool think he Tony Montana or some shit. And he making a dope deal for like 2 keys. That's a paper trail, idiot. Then he's walking around in public with Happy, who is a known booster. He got the press on his ass. Because like I said, Ed Axe, who played by Ed O'Neill, was on their ass. And you walking around in L.A., one of the most scrutinized cities for high-profile people, with a known booster. And then you take a car from him. The man was dumb. And this last one, this is the reason I give it a 9 out of 10. Now, as a little boy, I'm all about knowledge of self and, want to know about my blackness and all this. But when Neon was in the college class and the English literature professor was giving this lecture and he raised his hand, he said, I want to point out this class is culturally biased. I said, why we ain't talking about African folk tales? He's like, 'cause it's English literature. He's like, why are we talking about African literature? And the instructor said something now that makes sense. He said, well, did you not read the course description? And now, when I went back and watched this review, I said, that's a good damn question. It was in the course description. How you gonna go in this class? Why we ain't talking about African literature? Nigga. Excuse my French, y'all, but that's how I look. It's a course in English literature. Now, if it was American literature, I get it. And he said, why we talking about the roots of this in African literature or African American? I get it, but it's English literature and you worried about why we're not talking about that. That was just like, okay, well, that was ignorant of your ass. Which didn't make no sense because it contradicted what we saw earlier about how intelligent Neon was. So that was the reason I give it a 9 out of 10. Now we're going to get to trivia. It was a lot of trivia I could have did for this. And what I wanted to do, I wanted to give y'all differences in the script versus this. Only thing I'm going to do before I move on, I'm going to give you a couple of differences. 2 differences, well, it's 3 actually. 1, Butch was not from Chicago. Butch was actually from D.C. He was actually from D.C. Why they changed it, I have no idea. But he was actually from D.C. 2, Ricky Rose's name was originally Ricky Fox. But I guess because they put Ricky Fox in the movie, they had to change it. And also, the reason why Pete knew how to say Baptist is because right before Pete is talking to Ricky Rose's dad, if you seen the movie, Ricky says, I like girls. He said, girls are going to be there. And Ricky's like, well, look, we come from a Baptist family. People think if I like girl, I should marry. That's why Pete knew to say Baptist. Because Ricky had put that bug in his ear like, oh, snap, let me say Baptist because he told me that. And just luckily, he just pulled First Baptist out of his ass. Now, the last one, this was a big change. Neon Bedeau was not Shaq's description. I guess they signed Shaq and they changed it. Neon Bedeau was 6'7", and he wasn't from New Orleans. He was from Watts. He was still an Army vet, still, a smart ass playing people like he's a big dumb nigga, but he was 6'7" and he's from Watts. So, like I said, they changed that because they well, Shaq can do this. We gonna jump on this with Shaq. And we'll make a lot of money, which it didn't work for them because they did not make payout like they thought they were. Now we're into trivia. Now, while this movie is set in L.A., it was not filmed in L.A. Well, not majority of it was filmed. Majority of the movie was filmed in Indiana. Only 2 times it was filmed in L.A. is when the kids came for their college visit and Pete Bell was showing them around campus. That was actually USC's campus. I find real wild that USC would let you film on their campus and the movie you film by is clearly their rival, UCLA. And another scene, you just got to notice, I know this because I watch basketball and I pay attention to everything and I know shit to look for. When they were showing Tony shaving points, they were looking at the tape and where the game was at. The game that was on tape was being played in the LA Sports Arena, which is no longer open. Matter of fact, it got demolished. I can tell because I can look and I see where they pulled up LA Sports Arena and then the little logo they put for them playing against the team. That's clearly the Clippers side because the Clippers used to play in the LA Sports Arena. But that's the only 2 things that actually took place in L.A. The rest of it was filmed in Indiana. The Western Arena, where the Dolphins played, that's actually Case Arena in Frankfort, Indiana. And y'all want to know something? That's a high school gym. Yes, a high school gym. Indiana takes high school very serious, like on the level that Texas takes football. And it's home to the Frankfurt Hot Dogs. Go figure, they named their team the Hot Dogs. Frankfurt Hot. Anyway, Happy Kuykendall was based on notorious UCLA booster Sam Gilbert, who was around the program from the middle of the Woodland area in the mid-'60s to 1981 when he got banned. The team that Rick Pitino coached, the fictitious Texas Western, is not necessarily fictional. You know, I mentioned Texas Western before. It's now called the University of Texas at El Paso, or UTEP. Before that, it was Texas Western College. And like I said, we know this because Texas Western won the 1966 NCAA Division I championship when they defeated the University of Kentucky Wildcats, coached by legendary coach Adolph Rupp and led by ABA All-Star Louis Dampier and NBA player and coaching legend Pat Riley. Beat them 72-65, which is notable because that's the first time that 5 blacks were in the starting 5 and only black people played against an all-white team in the NCAA championship. Like I said, if you've heard me mention before, that's Glory Road. That's how Glory Road came about. That's the true story of Glory Road. This movie actually helped Penny Hardaway get drafted by the Magic. Because when they was filming, Shaq was very impressed by Penny's game, and he told the Magic, hey, y'all need to check this guy out. I think he might be the missing piece. And it ended up turning into a trial with the organization. Now, one thing I do love about this movie, before I say this, I got a lot of information online, you know, in comment sections, DMs, and all that. And one of the people who shouted out something to me, and I'm going to shout this brother out because this brother actually gave me encouragement to even start this movie review podcast, is my frat brother, David Perry from Florida. He told me when he was a kid in Orlando, at the time this movie came out, he said Shaq and Penny surprised everybody and showed up at a screening they did at the theater. So that had to be cool. Hey, bro, you was a frat. You was part of history, dog. You was a big part of history and pop culture. You cherish that memory for as long as you can. Marcus Johnson, who played Mel, one of Pete Bell's assistant coaches at Western, was actually an All-American at UCLA in the 70s. And before that, he was an All-American at All-City at Crenshaw High School in L.A. Y'all need to do your homework about Crenshaw. Used to be a long-time basketball powerhouse before he went on to have a stellar career in the NBA, mainly with the Milwaukee Bucks. And I want to say this, side note. Why in God's green earth is Marcus Johnson, let me say Johnson, I think I might have made a mistake and say Houston. Why is Marcus Johnson not in the NBA Hall of Fame? The man was a dog, multi-time NBA All-Star. Hell, the man is who Michael Jordan had on his dorm room wall when he was at UNC. Go look up the pictures that they took of Michael Jordan in his dorm room. You see Marcus Johnson on his wall. Put the man in the hall, man. Give him the hall. This movie features 2 legendary Boston Celtics, Larry Bird, who I mentioned, and Bob Cousy, who played Vic Roker, who was the athletic director for Western University. Now, they didn't say this, but like I said in the original script, the reason why Pete felt pressure to recruit and get his program back on track, Pete was going to lose his job. Because if you watch the trailer, there is a scene where Pete, Vic Roker played by Bob Cousy, and the chancellor were having a meeting, and they were like, hey, man, you got to pick it up. We got to get you up out of it. We got to make a change. Basically, your ass is going to be fired. But Bob Cousy showed why he's 11-time NBA champion and why he in the Hall of Fame. So there's a scene right before the last game of the season where Pete and Vic are talking in the gym, and Bob Cousy's at the free throw line, just draining them. Actually couldn't miss. It wasn't scripted for him to keep making. He just couldn't miss. And Nick Nolte ad-libbed. He was like, you can't miss, can you? And he was like, well, that's the name of the game. Put the ball in the hole. And towards the end of this scene, Nick Nolte ad-libbed, like, missed the goddamn ball. Jesus Christ. So Bob Cousy switched up and shot it with his left hand. And then Nick Nolte said, you can't even miss left-handed. So he ad-libbed that. And Bob Cousy actually said the reason why he was good with his left hand thing, he said he broke his right hand, so he was forced to use his left hand once upon a time. Anthony C. Hall, who played Tony, that's the player that actually did shave the points. He was around about 30 years old when he did this movie. He revealed it online. I think on TikTok he revealed it. Somebody was giving him an interview that he posted on TikTok, because I follow him on TikTok. Real cool dude. He revealed that he was 32 when he did Sunset Park. He played a teenager in Sunset Park, which came out 2 years later. He played the character of Andre. And somewhere down the line, I'm gonna review Sunset Park. That's one of my favorite movies. So that means Sunset Park came out in 96. He was 32. That means this man was around about 30 when he did this movie. And I also noticed, this is just not no trivia, this is just trivia I came up. I noticed that in both Blue Chips and Sunset Park, Anthony Hall wore number 44. So I had asked him on TikTok, because he was mentioning something about Blue Chips in one of his TikTok. I said, man, did you wear that? I said, hey, OG, did you wear that number in real life? And he replied real quick, and he was cool. He said, nah, man, I actually wore number 21 when I played ball at Chaminade University in Hawaii back in the day. He said, I don't know how he said, that shit just was coincidence, bro, that I got it both times. You know, and speaking of college players, this movie featured a lot of players who were real players and not just college, but the pros. What they did was they got a lot of players who was just leaving college and about to go to pro, because, you know, if they would have got them in college, that would have been NCAA regulation. Like the story with one of the guys from the movie Hoosiers, go look it up, I think his name's Steve Holler, like he got in trouble for doing that. So I guess they learned their lesson. They was like, no, let them wait till they get drafted and then we can do it. They fresh into the league, so they can still look like college players. And these are just some of the few players who were standouts in college who were in the movie. I'm going to give you their college. Mitch Butler, UCLA. George Lentz, North Carolina. Rick Fox, North Carolina. Calbert Chaney, Indiana. Eric Riley, Michigan. Bobby Hurley, Duke. And remember I had said the basketball looked real? Well, that's because it was real. So when Western played Indiana at the end of the movie, it was actually footage taken from 2 actual games. And even though the Dolphins won in the movie, they lost both contests to Bob Knight's quote-unquote Hoosiers. Because the reason they lost, because Bob Knight told them, he said, look, we're going to play for real. He said, I don't give a damn if it's a movie. They here to film a movie. We here to play for real. And that sounded like Bobby Knight ass. And I remember I had posted that, because I'm in this vintage college basketball group, because I love college basketball. I even love, like, college basketball from the 80s, 90s, early 2000s. You know, it's when the kid, and I looked up these guys, they were like superheroes. And one of the guys in the group, he happens to be from Indiana. He was an extra. He said, yeah, when I said they actually, and I posted this, said, yeah, they actually lost both games. He said, yeah, you correct. He said, I was an extra, and I remember at the end of the game, if you watch the movie, at the end, Western beats Indiana on an alley-oop from Butch Penny's character to Neon Shaq's character. He hits the alley-oop as time expires. This guy told me they had to reshoot that because the Hoosiers kept fucking that play up. So, yeah, that basketball looked real because it was real. And a lot of people actually said, well, Nick Nolte seems like he was Bobby Knight almost in that. Well, Nick Nolte actually shadowed Bob Knight for the 1991-1992 season. Oh, yeah, and also, I didn't mention this. Matt Norver played Ricky Rowe. He actually played at Indiana for Bob Knight. Matter of fact, he played during this season that Nick Nolte shadowed them. Because I remember watching a game from the 92 tournament and seeing him in there. So the reason why Nick Nolte's Pete Bell seemed so much like Bobby Knight, because he legit was Bob Knight. I mean, that was his inspiration for his character. And how we know it's supposed to be inspired by, Pete Bell's supposed to be inspired by Bob Knight. Like I said, an original script, like how we saw in the movie, Pete Bell punched the basketball into the stands. In the original script, he threw a chair across the court like Bobby Knight did in that classic footage from the 80s. So, yeah, all that, man, made for this to be a great movie. And not just for sports, it's just a good watch, period. Because the acting, like I said, is top notch. Now, there's 3 quotes. I usually have 1 quote, but there's 3 quotes that I love from this movie. First 2 quotes, me and my friend Keith, we say this all the time to each other. We randomly send this back and forth to each other. We know what the other one was talking about. Like I told y'all in the scene where Happy is telling Pete about himself like, you a fucking hypocrite. You talk about all this, but them kids don't get no money, but you get all this money while they broke. Right before he leaves, Happy gives him like this creepy ass smile and says, we owe them this money. And me and him would just like when we was deployed to Djibouti back in 2019, we used to just do that all the time to each other, just see each other come up on the other one and see the other one coming and go, we owe them this money. The second one was when, after Happy had told him, oh, that point shaving incident was real, I bought one of your players. And he tells him the date of the game, so Pete and all of his assistant coaches are watching the game. And one of his coaches, Freddie, he's like, oh yeah, you ain't cover spread that night. And then the other coach, Jack, black dude, he was like, no, this ain't it. This ain't it. And Freddie like, look at him, he fucking up again. And then finally Jack turned around and said, shut up, Freddie. Tony was my guy, all right, my guy. Hey, Jack was standing on business, man. Jack was like, Freddie kept doing all that talking. Jack was like, hey, man, all right, motherfucker, come on now. Hey, stall him out. Not like they say on the West Coast, stall him out. Leave me alone, dog, for real. I got eyes, but it's my boy you talking about. You ain't gonna keep talking about my boy in my face. And the last quote, I just love this one because I don't understand how in real life your ass don't get tossed. It was during the final game. It was following the play where one of the Hoosiers went up for a layup and one of the Dolphins was like right on his back. And Bob Knight looked at the referee, said, if he's over his back, that's a foul. And the ref kind of turned, looked at him, Bob Knight like, what? He said, I can't see him from this trail. And the Bob Knight like, that's bullshit. He said, well, you should see the guy over him. He said, move your fat ass down when you can see. I'm like, damn, you can't talk to the ref like that, bro. Even That's how you know people were scared of Bobby Knight, if you can talk to the ref like that. Anyway, y'all, that's been my time, man. I'm actually proud because I was scared I was going to run longer than this. But I'm glad I did this, man. Look, y'all can follow me on Facebook. You can follow my group on Facebook. It's the name of it the same as the podcast, At the Move with Pete McCorvey. Y'all can follow me on Instagram, PeteMac10, PETYMAC10. Follow me on TikTok, PeteMac89. Same as Instagram. Just drop the 1 to 0, put an 8 and a 9. Let me know what you think about these reviews. Tell me a movie you might want me to review. Matter of fact, the next movie I'm going to review in 2 weeks, because I mentioned it in here because it's the movie that my mama almost had us seeing, thinking it's Blue Chips. I'm going to review the 1994 crime drama, Sugar Hill, starring Wesley Snipes, Michael Wright, a.k.a. Eddie Kane Jr., and Teresa Randall. But until that time, y'all be cool, stay calm, and get paid. Peace.